Come
When you
on.
play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers. This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones cast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Hashtag BTitThronies of all ages. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 159, our bonus episode, reviewing Stormborn, season 7, episode 2. It's going to be a lot of fun. In this particular format, we like to break down the show a little bit deeper, and we have a little bit more time to do so. And I'm going to have a great team when they all get here of Thronies for you tonight. Let's start out with the amazing, the very talented gentleman who rides around in a Millennium Falcon. He has a Valyrian steel Gatling bullet shooting gun. It's amazing. It's attached to his arm. He is the one, the only, the militant Marker Yardley. How are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing outstanding, man. What better way than to talk about Stormborn on Hump Day?
Yes, definitely. Did I forget to mention the date? I did. This episode was recorded Wednesday, 26th, 2017. Yardley, could you please tell everybody where they can get a hold of you if they wanted to pick your brain on anything?
You can follow me on Twitter at militant_marker.
Excellent. Next, we have an amazing character, our very own Dovahkiin Trin. Hey, Trin, how are you?
I am ecstatic to be here today, and I want to give a shout out really quick while we're live on the podcast to my physical therapists who listen to us and watch us, Rachel and Sarah. I love you guys. Thanks for joining us. I know they're here watching right now, so I'm excited to be surrounded by people.
Yes, awesome. Welcome to the show. And Trin, why don't you tell people where they can get a hold of you on social media?
I am Instagram and Twitter at Dovahkiin Trin.
Very simple. Very nice.
Very simple.
Next, you know him, you love him. He is a royal pain in the ass, but, you know, he's our friend. He is the one true man of the North. He is General Jonathan Stoma Starklover. Welcome to the show, pal.
Thank you, Chris. I love being here. It's going to be a great show tonight.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys are excited for a lot of entertainment.
I'm super excited for this.
Awesome. We're going to be breaking down the episode, and we're going to be following scene by scene. But before we do, I want to mention that Andrea is still on her way home from work. She should be here as soon as she can get here. And if she has time at the end of the podcast, depending on how many people are interested, she may do a Q&A or a late night with Andrea. So that's something to look forward to. And if you would like to join us live, you can every single week. On Sunday nights or on Wednesday nights. Just got to follow us at facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. We'd love to have you. And if you want to find us anywhere on social media, all you have to do is, it's actually really simple. Just go to BehindTheIronThrone.com. On the front page, there's a button you can press for all of our different links, including a way for you to support us on our new Patreon support page. That's right. You can throw some dollars at us to keep us going. And, of course, to help pay for the wires that somehow I keep breaking. I don't know what is wrong. I am the breaker of wires. Thanks to DJ gave me that name.
Yes.
It's definitely
the breaker
fitting.
of audio cords.
Yes. Holy crap. Do I go through a lot of them? It's a real pain in the butt. So this is a great. You. This is a great episode. My son he snuck into the room while I'm trying to record live. Brian is here. So, real quick, I just want to mention, actually, Trin, could you please tell us who the director is while I handle some noise in my background?
Yes. So this is season 7, episode 2, Stormborn. We're doing the bonus episode tonight, and it was directed by Mark Mylod, written by Dan and Dave, And the description of the actual episode says Daenerys receives an unexpected visitor. Jon faces a revolt, and Tyrion plans the conquest of Westeros. So they didn't quite cover everything in the description, but of course they're going to leave some things out. That's just the way that we roll with the Game of Thrones. They got to give us some suspense.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and they do a good job doing that. I guess we'll get right into it because there's a lot of content to cover, and we're going to try to keep the show time-wise limited. Dragonstone, we had a big storm. Very, very fitting that we had Dany at Dragonstone. You know, where she was born, Stormborn, and all that. We had Varys, and then we had Melisandre. I'm hearing myself back. I think there's an echo somewhere. Anyhow, so we had Melisandre was there, Varys is there, a whole lot of shenanigans. I'm curious, Yardley, what did you think of the beginning scene of the episode 2?
I think for me, I would have probably have had that conversation well before touching down at Dragonstone, because at this point, Dany's playing in a game that she's partially relying on other people to help guide her through. So I think Varys made a great comeback in their conversation by essentially saying that his loyalty is to the people and not any particular king or queen. So if you're a character like Littlefinger or Varys, you think, it's pretty essential that you hedge your bets. So something I kind of want to pose to everybody else is, at this point in the game, do we all think that Varys is telling the whole truth of his intentions?
Who would like to answer that first? Go ahead, John.
I think he's telling the truth. I think he's fighting for the people, the common people. I don't see why he would lie at this point. He's openly supporting Dany, so I believe what he says is true.
I agree. I think that we don't have any reason to doubt him in the show, like the show version of Varys. There's no reason to doubt him. That was kind of a terrifying moment for Varys. I did notice that he defended Robert. Of all kings, he defended Robert Baratheon and said, he wasn't really the best king, but he wasn't the worst king. But he did verify the Mad King as being a terrible person. And I still served him, but he was a terrible person. That's a theme Dany's had to deal with for a while. And even when Tyrion tried to intervene, Varys stuck to his guns and he said, as long as I have eyes, I'm going to use them, and I choose you. So I think he's being real.
I choose you, Pikachu. Now, we had a wonderful person just join us here. She made it to the show. She is our very own Mistress of Whispers and does a phenomenal job all over the social media and the Facebook page, facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. And, of course, the Facebook group, B-Tit, baby. Club B-Tit, to be precise. Andrea, welcome to the show. Where can people find you? And I want your thoughts on Dragonstone, the very first scene we open up with.
Well, hi, everyone. It's good to be back. If you're looking for me specifically, you can find me at A_Richard637 at Twitter. You can also find me here on Facebook anytime and on Instagram. We do have a Behind the Iron Throne Instagram, so I'm there all the time. You can always go in there and drop a DM, but the best place is here on Facebook for sure. And I have lots of thoughts on Dragonstone, so I will say if anybody wants to go live after the show for more information, I am writing up a show analysis. Then just comment in the discussions page, and we'll do that afterwards. I don't know if I feel like Varys was being sincere. Not that I think that he was lying either, but Varys has a way of telling truths without, revealing his ultimate goals. And I don't know if Daenerys has anything to worry about when it comes to Varys. I think that her questioning him, connecting the dots, making sure that she knew that it was him and Illyrio who set her up with Khal Drogo and what they expected to come from that, and all the lies that they told onto Viserys. I think that it was important that she brought that up, because if she just let it go unquestioned or unchecked, then she could be seen as weak or, somebody who doesn't care to follow forward with things that definitely impacted her life. But Varys didn't promise her, absolute loyalty again. He promised that he would be honest with her. But that would all depend on, Varys specifically and what he does want, from her. And so far she's sending off a lot of Stannis Baratheon, Aerys, the Mad King vibes. I'll burn you alive. He can come and bend the knee. I don't know how far this relationship with Varys and Daenerys is gonna go. And last but not least, I do want to say that we got a lot of really good information based on this episode, and I'm again writing that out in my review. We know that Ser Jorah's line was blended with John Connington's with the grayscale, and Daenerys is having a blended story arc as well. So that's as far as I'm going to go, and that was figured out based on the conversation in Dragonstone.
Awesome. And you can find everything that Andrea is working on BehindTheIronThrone.com, on the blog, and of course on the Facebook. And in the Facebook group, she has a great time talking to the community. Andrea, I can't tell you how proud I am. You do a phenomenal job there, and I've been trying to keep up to date with all of your posts, and you're just phenomenal. You are all over the place, and also the fans, the hashtag Thronies, have been phenomenal on the page as well. Not to mention Mama Cheryl and a few other people that have already donated to our Patreon adventure. I just can't tell you how that moves me inside.
Thank you so much for all of you who are, trying to support us. That means a lot to everyone.
Yeah, it keeps everything rolling nice and smooth. All right, so John, did you have any thoughts on the first scene?
I just think everything Varys says was true. I believe everything he says. He's always said, I want what's best for the realm, and he's also fighting for the common people. So I believe everything he said.
Yeah,
I think he held his own against Daenerys too.
Yeah.
I will say that he was scared shitless. You could see it all over his face. He was nervous the whole entire time. And then she was like, swear to me this. And then he kind of took this like sigh of relief. And then she goes, but if you ever betray me, I'll burn you alive. And he kind of smiled at her like, yeah, you're hitting your dad's freaking personality profile. All right.
Really quick, Mama Cheryl just popped in. She said, hey, kids, I'm here for a second. We just want to throw a big shout out to you because you're the first Patreonist supporter. We love you, Mama Cheryl. Just
absolutely.
wanted to say hi to her. And we are going to get all the comments. So once we do all the hosts and stuff make our comments, just to let you guys know, comment on what we're talking about, and we will pick you guys up.
Yes, awesome. Let's see, where were we here? So John, okay, so I agree. I think that Varys was scared, and I think he saved himself from being beheaded. Trin, what were your thoughts?
Just kind of what I said before, how I thought that it was cool that Varys brought up the Mad King and Robert, and he did end up saying, I choose you, so no reason to doubt him, honestly. And I completely agree with Yardley in that conversation should have happened on the ship on the way over. They were on the same ship, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I completely agree with that. It's weird. Why travel all the way from Marine all the way over to Dragonstone, and then you have all this time on a boat where you can't really do much, and you waited until Dragonstone to bring it up? That's interesting.
Now, Trent, did you want to hit the comments, see what kind of comments we have for our first scene, what some of our awesome hashtag Thronies are saying?
Yeah, DJ said she learned all that mistrust from Jorah, though, which is a great point because she really does have to question the motivations of the people she's surrounded herself with. Let's see. People are talking about friend requests.
That's awesome.
Canoni says, or Lord Cannoli says,
hey!
I think it's safe to say that Jerk Mormont wouldn't be able to handle getting tattoos. What? I missed something there. Trust no one. It will sour your stomach, but it will keep you alive, says Eric Flores. And Lord Bag says Varys held his own. And incompetence should not be rewarded with blind loyalty, Eric brings up again. So, yeah, they've all got great points there.
Yeah, definitely a lot of good points. So I want to move on to Melisandre's role here at Dragonstone, which I thought was very important. Not to mention the fact that she looks very confident, and she looks a little bit different than we saw her in the last season. Yardley,
Yes.
would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. The state that we saw her in at the end of last season, I mean, even though we knew that she was involved in some things that were kind of gut-wrenching to us, namely what happened with Shireen. She was in a bad spot. We got to see her true self without the glamour. And, when she stepped out with basically her life threatened if she returned, we were all very curious to see where she would end up. So I think more than anything else, I'll be excited to see part 2 of her and Sir Davos.
Awesome. Andrea, what did you think about seeing Melisandre at Dragonstone?
I agree with you that she did have this kind of different look about her this time. I don't know if it's post-pregnancy glow from, her real life. But she definitely looked more calm, at ease. I feel like she finally realizes her purpose. I loved that she was unwilling to actually definitively say, you're the prince or the princess that was promised. I think that you have a role to play, though she didn't expand on how significant that role would be. And she didn't give up on Jon, even though Jon sent her away. In fact, she told him to summon Jon, and I think everyone knows, especially Melisandre, that Jon's not going anywhere without Davos. So that was really interesting to me. I was really happy to see her show up at Dragonstone. I'm a little concerned with the fact that when Daenerys and Tyrion were planning the conquest of Westeros, though, they weren't talking about this threat that Melisandre immediately told them about. And Daenerys didn't inquire about the long night, which just goes to show that she's still a little self-absorbed.
Yeah, I agree with that. John, I know that you have to be ecstatic about her mentioning of Jon Snow. You must have been jumping up and down out of your seat. So why don't you tell us how you felt about that?
I love that she mentioned Jon. I was waiting for it too, and I also found it interesting that she never mentioned that Jon died and was brought back to life. I thought that would have really been it for them to hear. That would have been really interesting.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Now, I think that Tren, you would probably appreciate them talking in High Valyrian, the dialogue that Missandei had with Mel. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was definitely a fan service that they did when Missandei corrected the translation from Daenerys. Total book fan service because of the whole prophecy and things like that. They don't really get that deep into the show, and I don't think they're going to continue to get that deep in the show, but it was sort of a nod back, kind of saying, yeah, book fans, we know you're there. We acknowledge this whole thing, so we're going to go with it just to let you guys know that we haven't excluded you or left you out, but we still are they followed it with Melisandre saying you and another. So, they may or may not go that direction with her being the princess that was promised or prince that was promised. I really liked Dany's expression when Tyrion's talking about Jon, saying, I'm an excellent judge of character. And she broke her bearing for a second, because in this whole scene, she's been like, I am the queen and everyone's going to bend the knee and all this stuff. And she broke her bearing. And it was nice to see her kind of smirk in that, oh, okay, if you like him, I like him.
I didn't read it that way at all. Sorry. I can wait.
No, go ahead.
I didn't read that smirk as if you like him, I like him. He paid her a compliment. After all, I'm an excellent judge of character. And in season 5, they talked about, what Tyrion's thoughts of Daenerys were. And he said, here we are, 2 terrible children from 2 terrible fathers. And she goes, I'm terrible. And he goes, yeah, well, I wanted to see if you were the right kind of terrible. And you are, basically. So it was like Tyrion saying, I'm an excellent judge of character. I know your character. And so she was like, yeah, you do. He's smitten with her. You can obviously tell that he's taken by Daenerys, and more than just admiration. And so he's making good decisions, but he's also making a little bit of sloppy decisions. And this episode specifically, you actually start seeing the characters, the dance that it's going to start happening, the play-by-play going back and forth between certain factions. You're definitely noticing how it's starting to develop. And Daenerys, I don't know. I love Daenerys, but I still think that she has this kind of pompous edge about her. And it wasn't all, if you like him, I like him. That's why she was like, tell him his queen sends for him to come to Dragonstone and bend the knee. And then Tyrion kind of looked at her like, I'm not saying that to him. And then, of course, I transcribed the Raven.
Oh, yes, which is, I thoroughly enjoyed that, by the way. Let's see. How about the any comments from the chat room?
Yes. Yeah, we've got a bunch of people here. John Serbeck said, if Dany is having this hard of a time hurting her allies, wait until she has to reach out to her enemies. Eric Flores says, ravishing Melisandre, which Andrea mentioned that she did look ravishing. Joette says, I dig Melisandre. Todd Willis, Trin, easy for Lord Varys to hold his own because he has none. Ha ha ha. Good one. Christina, she didn't show fear either, just fact. I think she's talking about Melisandre. John Serbeck says Mel is a little unsure of herself, but she's still searching for Azor Ahai to save everyone, which is really a good point because we didn't really think about it. That's Melisandre's whole mission, really. She's out to find Azor Ahai, and Stannis was in it. So, DJ House Seaworth, I guess that's his house. Eric Flores, Master Aemon said to Samwell in Feast for Crows, the prince that was promised has not gender in Valyrian. Oh, that's a good. Yeah, I think that's the callback I was referring to. That they're servicing book fans in that. Kanoni, Dany's allies are out of their own convenience. I wonder if they stay loyal. Lannisters are going to win the first few battles for sure. And then John Serbeck says, I thought Andrea was the princess that was promised. Oh, nice. John. And Anthony Canone, bend the knee could mean marriage. Ooh. Yeah. She did tell Dario to stay. She needs to go get a husband. That's great. That's all of them.
All right. Excellent. Go ahead, Andre.
I just have a comment from Gisela. She's not in the chat that I can see, but she did make a point that she noticed a lot of similarities between Varys' story, his history, and Melisandre's. Though, in Gisela's offense, she hasn't read A Dance with Dragons, so she doesn't know Melisandre's story based off the books. But she said, how she was bought and sold, and she was marked and branded, and Varys basically said he was cut up and sold and lived in, broken down houses. So she thought that there was it was important that we marked the similarities between Varys and Melisandre.
Excellent. Yeah, we love Gisela. Gisela does a lot of great stuff behind the scenes, helping out Andrea and working with the community, and we love her to death for sure. Okay, so let's say we go back to the north. We're going to go flying to the north. The Ravens are traveling. Holy moly, we're going to go north. We get a Raven, and we got Jon and Sansa and Davos talking about this Raven that they just got. I love the conversation that they had, but I'm really interested in what you thought about this, Yardley.
Well, you know what I thought was cool, but it was actually mentioned in the last segment when we were talking about the message that Jon had received, with there being no mention of bending the knee. And I love how the threads of relationships that were built early on have all come full circle. And all the time when all of these characters, their lots and lives have changed so much. So I think it's really cool to see things that were said back in, I think, season 1, season 2, kind of coming back. And all of these characters kind of intersecting now. I find it very exciting to see what's going to go on moving forward.
Excellent. Andre, what do you think about being back in the north and the Raven arriving and this conversation between these characters?
Well, I will say that I was really excited to see Tyrion's expression of the mention of Jon Snow's name. And so I was really curious as to what he was going to say in the Raven. And if you guys want, I can read it for the fans who aren't on our media page. If not,
yeah,
then,
please do. Go ahead, read it.
It's pretty quick. So he says, my queen Daenerys Targaryen, first of her name, invites you to Dragonstone. My queen commands the lords of Dorne and the Reach, an Ironborn fleet, a Dothraki horde, a legion of Unsullied, and 3 dragons. The 7 kingdoms will bleed as long as Cersei sits the Iron Throne. Join us. Together we can end her tyranny. From one bastard to another, for all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes. Tyrion Lannister, Hand of the Queen.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that he chose his words carefully. I think he mentioned all of the things that needed to be mentioned. and I was a little sad that he. Well, I don't know if I was sad about anything. I was a little sad that, it wasn't taken very well right away, but I'm also really happy that Davos picked up on the most important part of this, that she has 3 dragons, and 3 dragons can rain fire down on anything, basically, at this point. I really liked Davos's pickup on the situation. I actually was really happy to hear Sansa and her again for like the 4th time have to confirm that Tyrion is not like his brother and his sister. He's not like Tywin Lannister, and that he was always kind to her, which everyone I think should know that I ship Tyrion and Sansa hardcore, and I keep hoping that they're going to,
I do too.
move
I
forward.
do too.
I just feel like Tyrion is worthy of her. The question is Sansa worthy of Tyrion? And I think that she's starting to be. So I'm still shipping them hardcore. And so I'm hoping that, her having to sit back and remember how kind he was to her, how he never forced himself on her, how he never harmed her, how he only tried to protect her. I'm really hoping that pays off later on. So overall, this situation right here, it was a win for me.
It's funny you mentioned that. 2 things. I would definitely agree with that hardcore action. I don't think John would, with Sansa and Tyrion. Yeah, I get it. Hardcore action. Okay, bad joke.
I think that he would.
I don't know. He might come around. What do you think, John?
I've always said I like Tyrion, so I don't mind that. I love this scene. I think the reason Tyrion didn't mention bend the knee is because the past of the kings ask, like when Joffrey asked Robb to come bend the knee, or when the Mad King asked to bring the Starks down. I think that was a smart play on Tyrion. Again, Tyrion is very smart. I love the putting the bastards code in there. I thought that was awesome, and the fact that they keep twice in this episode. They mentioned in the north. They mentioned the 3 dragons, which is why I don't think any dragons are dying in this season. But I just love this scene overall. It was amazing.
Okay, excellent. I don't know. Do you think that Trent? Do you think that Tyrion is not like other Lannisters? Do you think that he has a lot of traits that separate him? I mean, that's what Sansa is saying. Sansa has a lot of faith in him. Well, it seems. I think you're muted, Trent.
Oh, sorry. Yes, she said she did say those exact words, and she said it without hesitation, and it was really genuine. Like it rolled right off of her tongue. She didn't even say it with any effort. Like she wasn't pretending. So I agree with John, and I agree with everybody. Like he's the one Lannister that's not the bad guy. But anybody notice Davos is reading really fast?
Really fast. Much better.
He just learned to read last season, and now he's like, well, there's a hefty mention of Dothraki forward, and like he said it like it was like he just like glanced over and was like, I totally read that.
He's totally
Mr.
doing so good.
himself.
Yes.
The Knigget. He's doing so well. It's like amazing.
Yes. I thought that was funny. He's doing good.
Yeah, he's
all right,
doing.
We got fans.
Oh yeah, let's see what the
have
fans have to
comments
say.
Before we get to okay. Kisia, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong.
Yeah.
Spell it out phonetically, and I'll do my best. It says, I miss Dario. Do you think he'll make an appearance before the show finishes?
Hope not.
Oh. Cannoli says, I don't think the Lannisters will be caught off guard. They're elite. Lord Baggs says, Jon might take an arrow to the knee. Fuck yeah, Bags. I love that.
Nice.
It's a Skyrim
That's
reference,
awesome.
and I love you.
Gold star.
Yeah, gold star, Bags. DJ says the Lannisters are done. And Kanoni says, no way. In the end, I agree, but not yet. And then he says there are many defenses at the Rock right now. The Rock is as good as gone. Or there isn't many defenses. I'm sorry. The Rock is as good as gone. Jeff Kenzie says, hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm late.
Yay.
But, has getting the invites when it starts. Oh, we will fix that and share, everybody. People missing out.
Yeah, everybody should take a moment to share right now. Share it with your page. Good, share.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a good share. And besides, if we get 25 shares, somebody's doing a shot.
If we get
That's
50, she's doing 2. But if we get 100,
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna. I don't. We'll see. I think we're gonna go. We'll go in 25s. Okay, guys. Um, Peter says, "I just hope Sansa stopped being so needy now that Jon asks her opinion and makes her feel important." Kennedy says Tyrion knows the sewer systems, and there scares the shit out of me. Oh yeah, well that's a really good strategy to know the sewer systems over there. Oh, Canoni, pun intended. Lord Bags hooked on phonics work for Davos. And John Serbeck, Chris, are you implying that Tyrion is not a Lannister? Sansa picks up on things like that in season 1 when she said Joffrey wasn't anything like Robert. Wow, that's pretty interesting.
I think that he has some similarities. He's a new and improved version of Tywin. Very smart, but he lacks that viciousness that his father had.
I think he's trying to reel us in on the Tyrion's a secret Targaryen theory that we can talk about on a separate episode after the season.
Yes, and he's a vampire.
Definitely. And he's a vampire. Lord Canoni, while all are band together with their eyes fixed on the north, paying attention to the dead, Lannisters will sink their claws into southern Westeros. Thank you, Christina, for sharing. And John, I still hope Tyrion takes Casterly Rock and says in a perfect Sean Connery accent, "Welcome to the Rock. I was formerly a resident
that's
here."
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's good. You guys are great.
I would just love to do that. I can't get him down. Welcome to the Rock. I can't get it. I have to keep practicing.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Trace?
are you guys ready to go southish back to King's Landing?
Like Grey Worm?
Are we doing scene by scene, or are we doing like a total scene altogether?
Going scene by scene. I believe the next scene is King's Landing, where Cersei and Jaime were talking to the Lords of Westeros, and then they had the conversation with Rhaegal Tarly.
Indeed.
So I figured that's where we go, and I want to know what you were thinking about this particular scene, Yarly, because I thought that there was some important stuff, and I think that there was some, the mention of the Dothraki or the Unsullied. I think that Cersei is pretty smart in this situation. I'm curious if you agree with that.
Yeah, well, she was just, for the most part, on point. I mean, what I loved about the scene was that she didn't say anything that wasn't really true about Dany, the Dothraki, or the Unsullied. She gave her stump speech like a nationalist, played up the fears of foreign invaders coming to take over, and just when people were expecting her to lie, she didn't, because the truth in itself was effective, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Andrea, do you agree with that? Do you think that Cersei played that like a fiddle?
I do think that she played it like a fiddle. I did also notice that the only lords that she called were the Lords of the Reach. She didn't call the lords from the other kingdom that she rules, or any of the lords from the Crownlands that I'm aware of. But she did twist things a little slightly. She said that she nailed the High Lords to posts, and then when she got tired of that, she started feeding them to her dragons. She did feed a lord to her dragon. That was one who, she thought was responsible for the Sons of the Harpy, so it was justified. And she did crucify the masters, not highborn, just masters who think that owning slaves is okay. And that was because of what they did to women and children. So, I mean, Cersei did find a way to make it work in her favor, but she also knew that these people were really sensitive to the idea of foreign invasions and a foreign queen who, may be Targaryen, but she hasn't spent a day of her life, basically, in Westeros. So she did make a really good point. But there were a few things that I thought were pretty awesome, like the aerial view of Cersei sitting on the throne, which looked like the Night King's brooch. I noticed that. And then the fact that Randall Tarly was actually wearing mail underneath his clothing.
Yes. I actually picked up on that as well. I did something good. That's cool.
Gold star.
Oh my God, I got a gold star. That's amazing.
Yes.
Randall Tarly seems very torn when Jamie is talking to him, minus the whole Rick on, Dick on thing, which is probably something I would do. Not because
it was it was Rickard and
Oh.
Dick on.
That was the name that he got messed up, right?
Mm-hmm. It was Rickard, but he did it on purpose, I think. Well, kind of. He didn't care about Dick on, but that's foreshadowing for sure.
John, what did you think was going on? Do you think that Randall Tarley will choose the Lannisters, or do you think he's going to be on the side of Lady Olenna?
I'm not sure. I think he'll probably go with the Lannisters, but I think Cersei is kind of being a hypocrite by saying burn that Dothraki will burn villages, and you burned the whole thing and killed a lot of innocent people. So there's that. Everything she said was true. I agree with Yardley. Everything she said was true. But she failed to mention that she's the reason that all these rebellions are happening. And number two, and I think this is why Tyrion is so smart. He's 5 steps ahead of them. He later on will say why he's not going to use the Dothraki or the Unsullied because of exactly what Cersei's doing now to try to rally the lords against him for using a foreign army. So Tyrion is ahead of Cersei, and he's 5 steps ahead of everyone, in my opinion.
Excellent point. The Dothraki will burn your villages to the ground seems very hypocritical considering what she has done. I think, Trin, you can agree with that. And I think you wanted to make a good point about a certain weapon.
Yeah, I noticed that Heartsbane and that whole thread has not been wrapped up. And how does Randall Tarley just show up in King's Landing and he's clearly not wearing a sword? So where is Heartsbane? He's not even pissed about it. Where did it go? How did that get skipped? Like that whole little, why did we see Sam steal it if it's not going to come up as like a point of contention, especially with Randall Tarley? Like that's his house sword.
Go ahead, Andre.
Can I address that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think that it's any of the lords of Westeros business what happens with his own home's ancestral sword. It wasn't a crime committed against the Seven Kingdoms. It was a crime committed against his house. And I think that as far as that goes, he's not going to reveal a weakness on his part. And it's not something that, the crown can get involved with. He's a sworn brother of the Night's Watch. However, there is a sword here that I think is highly important about mentioning. Just want to say really fast that I made a prediction for episode 3, and I was wrong. Jaime Lannister actually is holding Widow's Wail.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's Widow's Wail on his hip. So I thought that I would bring that up because now we have the other half of Ned Stark's sword that showed up in I think it was in season 6 too, and 7. So I thought that was worth mentioning. Bam!
I wouldn't bury that bastard with a sword like that. I was speaking about Joffrey being buried with a sword. Did they ever bury people with their weapons, or is that just something that I seen on a TV one time? But they don't do that. I don't think I've ever seen them bury anybody in the Game of Thrones with a weapon. Weapons are too valuable.
I do think that they put like a prop sword, for instance, in their tomb with them. But anything that's like Valyrian steel, which is super, rare and super expensive, that's something that continues to get passed down the line for sure.
Excellent. Okay, Trin, let's hear what our amazing Thronies have to say.
All right. Okay, so we have... Hang on a second. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up with everybody. Eric Flora says, Cersei doing politics on a high level. Jeff Kenzie says she's playing it like Tywin would have. DJ says Randall Tarley is one odd-looking dude. Joette, Cersei took this round where her and Dany are concerned. And Eric says Randall Tarley actors should do the voice of the audiobooks. John Serbeck says Cersei gonna destroy the Martells when they attack, when Randall Tarley turns on them, especially when Dorne doesn't show up again. Eric says Tarley will be with the Lannisters. Peter says that seems still off to me. He's siding with people that just killed his lord that he was sworn to. Lord Bag says, but Euron is 3 steps ahead of Tyrion's plan. Jeff says, exactly. How does he not mention it? And Jeff says, I think Sam will give Heartsbane to Ser Jorah. DJ says we can always use good steel. Peter says that sword will work for Jaime because it's smaller and easier to swing with one hand. And DJ said Starks and the Crypts have iron weapons. Eric says Tyrion plans to siege King's Landing when down in the drains when Euron attacks the ships. And Anthony Cannoli says ceremonial swords get buried with the dead. So not the actual swords. So good points.
Excellent points. James Faulkner, I believe, is the man who plays Randall Tarley. He has a great voice. I could listen to him read stuff all day long.
Absolutely.
It's actually kind of like Yarly. I could listen to Yarly read things to me all day long. You could literally read to me the DMV handbook, and I would listen to it.
I think the fans agree too.
You're welcome.
You should definitely look into doing some voice acting, my friend. You have some real skill right there. All right, I want to make sure I'm in the right place. I believe we're at Sam now at the Citadel, right?
Yes.
Where he's talking to Archmaester Ebon, which leads into, they're in the room with Jorah, right? And they got these big pokey things, and they're testing them out, and they're basically telling, Archmaester Ebon is basically telling Jorah, you're in a lot of trouble. You might not make it. Do you think that it was okay? Well, when Sam makes the connection that it's Lord Commander Mormont's son, Yarly, do you think that is what sparked it? Sparked him wanting to save him?
Absolutely. But I was thinking about it, and I don't know if the risk of getting kicked out and potentially failing to get all the information you need to help for the bigger picture, just to attempt to save the former Lord Commander's son, I don't know if that was a good risk to take. But nonetheless, he took the risk. He respected his father. And for now, at least, it looks like he might get away with it. But we'll see how long this process takes. But at the speed that we're going in the show, I'm pretty sure the next episode, he's like laying in the bed with some Campo Finique on his chest, and he'll be okay.
Man, does he look crispy critters. Oh, my God. Andrea, can you imagine the pain that this man is in with all that crusty? He looks like he's been put in a rotisserie and just burned.
I was like literally blown off of my seat. I mean, okay, the grayscale spread. I mean, obviously, if it spread that far that fast, Daenerys and Varys were on that ship for a really long time for her to hold out that conversation. Again, just have to bring that up. But all the way down his back, across his shoulder, down to his stomach, possibly below his waistline, that whole entire arm.
Ooh, yikes.
It really started to really occur to me, how much that Sam was going to have to do, because I don't think that was one thing that Sam could do in multiple sessions. Jorah didn't have enough time for that. So they literally had to sit there the entire night while Sam peeled the first layer of skin off of his body. Ugh. And honestly, I wasn't surprised that it hurt Jorah, but I also had the sense that Jorah he's tough. And he will endure any amount of pain possible if it means, being able to be by his queen. So that, to me, I just, my heart went out to him. And I couldn't really figure out if it was Sam that was going, as he was sawing at Jorah, or if it was Jorah who was grunting and Sam was just breathing really hard. But all I kept thinking was, Sam, your face is so close. Sam, your face is so close. Sam, why is your face so close? So I went in and I looked at the books and whatnot, and I got the translations. I'm going to post those later on. But I just really felt bad for him. And I saw the suicide note.
Oh, nice. Which you also put onto Facebook, right? You what's the word? Starts with a T. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I put it on our
you pulled it off
Club
and
Beaton.
wrote it on there. Yeah, nice work.
Yeah.
Excellent work, John. With what Andrea just said, I was kind of afraid that something was going to squirt off of Ser Jorah's chest into Sam's face, and that would have hurt my heart because I really like Sam. I don't want to see him get grayscale, but it was so ooey and gooey. I wanted to throw up. Oh my God! And did you feel the same way? Maybe you have a stronger stomach than I do with all that Canadian food you eat.
No, it was fine.
Loonies.
I was fine. stop with the
I'm just teasing you, pal. You know I love
It
you.
reminds when you're a kid and you have like you like have that scab on like a wound and you try to like as a kid you're like ripping at it and stuff like that. That's what it kind of reminded me of.
Puke.
Because when I was a kid once I had a scab on my knee and I after bumping it and I tried doing that. So no, I mean I was fine with this scene. I mean I was just worried for Sam. Like Sam, don't get grayscale, please.
Trent, did you think that that the Archmaester was trying to suggest suicide to Jorah?
Yeah, I think that when he said you've got a day, if do what you want with it, and he kind of like glanced over at the sword, which when somebody's looking at you and talking to you and then they look somewhere else, you kind of move your eye movements where they move their eye movements. So it was kind of a suggestion, like, if you want to take care of this yourself, nobody's going to judge you. You do your thing. It's a better death, maybe. So he was giving Jorah the opportunity to possibly kill himself. I think that, and I thought that was like what the suggestion was in that.
Yeah, I really liked the part of the conversation where Sam's like, "Who are you?" The Maester walked out of the room, and he was asking, "Do you want to send a raven to somebody that you love or whatever, some family?" And you get to see like Jorah feels like he has nobody, like his family, they've disowned him and they've been dead to him for a long time. So I really felt for Jorah in this moment, and I wasn't thinking ha 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 it's our friend zone like I had for the past 5.5 seasons. I was really feeling sympathy for the character and thinking, man, this guy's in for some trouble. Now, Trent, what are the comments coming in from our thronies? What are they saying?
Eric Flores says, can't eat pie with whipped cream or Boston cream donuts anymore. Lord Bag says, there's the old age kicking in Chris. Get the cane. Lord Cannoli says, Sam risked himself sharing that rum. Yeah, we mentioned, I think Yardley said that on Sunday. Joette says, totally recommending Jorah take himself out. Lord Bag says, no way, Jorah offs himself. Yeah, I don't think he's actually going to do it. I think it was just like a suggestion. So, yeah, those are the comments for now.
Okay. Wow, I thought there'd be more scenes about the good old, more comments about that scene. Okay, so moving right along.
I think it's because the scene was split into two pieces, and we get more of it later.
Yeah,
so
and I might have
more comments later.
Yeah, sorry about that. I kind of mixed them together. I jumped around a little bit right there. Moving on to, I believe we're going back to Dragonstone, right? Because Qyburn has a solution. Oh boy, does he have a solution! Yardley, when you see that big ass ballista firing into what is a very large dragon skull, what are you thinking at that moment?
At first I was like, that was pretty cool. And then after I rewatched it, I was just thinking about, I thought that it was a good idea to actually test that weapon on something that was at least comparable to what they were going to try to do with it, and that's to hurt or to kill a dragon. So to try it on an actual dragon skeleton and using Balerion as a measurement, I thought was kind of cool. And I don't think that they introduced the ballista, and I don't think that they wanted to devote that particular scene just for it to fail. It's going to do some kind of damage, and I think there are going to be more than one. And I think some will probably get used if a dragon happens to be on the ground walking around.
That bolt went into that skull pretty far. When I rewatched it on the third time, I noticed that it went through like the upper part of its, like right above, I guess above its eye, and it went through into the back of the skull. And I think someone just made a hot pocket. Hot pocket.
My bad.
That's okay, buddy. Just got to be careful of those background noises. Okay, Andrea.
Hot pockets on the podcast.
Yes, nice. Now I'm hungry. I'm honestly hungry for Hot Pockets. I love them, even though they're so bad for you. Andrea, how cool was it to see Balerion the Dread's skull? But were you a little bit underwhelmed? I mean, it was awesome, right? But I feel like it was too small.
I think it was too small. Wow, a little bit of an echo here. I think it was too small, but I definitely believe that for show watchers that they actually were showing us Balerion the Black Dread skull. I'm also really curious to know how in the hell did they get those skeletons down there in
Right.
that crypt without like jostling them or like wrecking them. That was pretty interesting for me. But I was a little upset. Me and Yardley had this conversation in the discussions page. It's not that they have rights or anything like that. They're dead, you know. But they forged the Seven Kingdoms and the Iron Throne, and I think that, you know, since everyone's fighting over it, they should have a little bit of respect for the dragons. I think that Cersei's going to fail with that, though. It shoots straight, you know what I mean? And where it may have power, I don't think that it's going to be able to, you know, follow a dragon's movements as well as Qyburn is trying to make Cersei believe. But we do have evidence based on that scene that ballista, that bolt is going to be strong enough to pierce, you know, to pierce a dragon all the way through the bone. So that's there, which means that we could see something similar to that in this season, and it might actually be a bolt going through a dragon's eye. So, I mean, I'm hoping that we don't lose any dragons. I think that is definitely going to play out, though, honestly. There's a reason for that. And also, I don't know if anybody else caught on to this. Qyburn told Cersei the finest artilleries or artillerators and blacksmiths have been working on this day in and day out. And we know that Tobo Moat is one of two blacksmiths that can rework Valyrian steel. And that would make him like a top-notch blacksmith. And Gendry has been his apprentice for how long? I totally think that we're getting Gendry based on that comment.
Yes.
Was this thing made of Valyrian steel?
No, not that it was made of Valyrian steel. It just speaks to how skilled they are. And when Gendry was 16, he was a superbly skilled blacksmith. So it just would make sense that Gendry would be in King's Landing, considering that's the only place that Davos could send him where Melisandre or Stannis couldn't reach him. So I definitely think that's our foreshadowing that he's coming, and he's coming soon.
I'm enjoying every scene with Qyburn and Cersei. For some reason, I really like these two characters together, and Qyburn's really grown on me. I really enjoy him as a character, and seeing him down in those crypts with the dragon skulls was like, I knew they had some kind of plan. I know, John, we talked about this on a previous episode where you think that Cersei was just going to get annihilated, and I know that you have to be thinking to yourself that using a ballista shooting at a dragon will be difficult if they let the dragon zig and zag, which doesn't seem to be something people in Thrones or maybe animals don't do in the show.
It's that weapon effectiveness will be determined by where they mount that weapon. If it's on a wall, it's going to be very effective. If it's on the ground and the dragon's in the air and you have to shoot upwards, it's going to be less effective because of gravity. That weapon is better when you're either firing it straight or at an angle. But the higher up that dragon is, it's going to lose the gravity. So I think that's going to play a part. I could see something where it's going to hit a dragon and they're going to celebrate thinking they won, and then boom, he's still alive, and he just burns that thing, because I just think it's too obvious. Oh, we introduced a weapon, so now a dragon's going to die. Like, that's a little too obvious. Kind of reminds me of the wildfire in episode 2 of season 2 with the Blackwater Bay. I mean, it did work, but then the army still came. So I kind of see something like that happening.
Well,
and it's very difficult. To aim that at you're pretty much going to have to try to hit the head in order to kill that dragon, and to kill a moving target, it's going to be tough.
I wonder if I don't know much about these kind of weapons. You're up on a wall. That's a big weapon to be just trying to wing around and pointing at a moving target in the sky. I can definitely understand what you're saying there, John, for sure. But something in my gut's telling me that one of these dragons is at least going to get poked somewhere with one of these big ass ballista bolts.
Mm-hmm.
I think one will get hit, but I don't see them dying. I just think that it's too important in the long run to have I think all 3 dragons are going to be used next season. That's why I can't see a dragon dying. They brought it up too much times in the north for it not to be used again in the story.
Okay, fair enough. I wonder if testing the ballista on a dragon skull is a good test with no meat, flesh, or dragon scales. How tough could they be? Trent, I wonder what your thoughts on this as our expert Dovahkiin.
Yeah, no, I'm somewhat of a dragon expert, more really a biology person, and I think that wasn't really a reliable test. And Balerion himself was kind of underwhelming, like you had stated at the beginning of the scene. He just didn't seem like he was big enough for that. Like an aurochs, being able to swallow an aurochs or a mammoth whole, which is what the book said, but we don't really have that same information in the show. But yeah, he didn't have scales, and their scale armor hide is pretty tough. And when you talk about bones that are sitting down there for God knows how long, getting all decrepit and dried out, of course it's going to break and get brittle pretty easily. And I liked Andrea mentioned that how did they get those down there? And the first thing I thought was, well, they're made of foam, and they just carved them in the studio. They carved them in the studio, so that's how they got them down there. But in like a realistic show, that is a good question to bring up. Like, how did they squeeze those bones in there without rattling them?
That's an excellent point. Andrea?
I just want to add, and I don't know if this has actually been mentioned in the show or not, but dragon bone actually doesn't disintegrate. It has a high iron content, which is super important, I will add. Higher than than any type of steel that you're going to find. And they're actually supposed to be like super black. So just like weirwoods, they'll grow forever if left undisturbed. Dragon bone does not deteriorate whatsoever. It is one of the strongest bones, period, or whatever, known to Westerosi peoples. So I don't see them deteriorating, but I'm still curious how they didn't dislocate, considering there's no cartilage.
Excellent points. Do we have the ability to see the chats, Trin? Are you back up with that?
I'm sorry, guys. I had to restart my tablet, so I lost a few of the questions.
Oh, you know what? Real
but I
quick.
know that Yardley wanted to say something.
Yeah. Thank you. I just saw that now. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead, Yardley.
Oh, it's all good. But the one thing that I want to note, something that has been established in show canon, is that a spear can pierce a dragon. So that's been established on the show.
Yeah, Qyburn mentions that in that scene.
Yeah, he's like a regular boss.
Does anybody notice the parallels between Qyburn and Sam here?
Yeah, I think we mentioned that on Sunday.
Did we? Yeah,
the healing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
yeah.
Well,
that's
yeah,
true,
it may have been. I just wonder, because Sam is so willing to do things that are forbidden, if that means that Sam and Qyburn have parallels too. And I wonder how they would get along, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I also thought there was a parallel between Varys and Qyburn as well.
I think the parallel, though, between Sam and Qyburn was doing things out of curiosity and, like, sort of self-serving. Like, he's self-serving his own curiosity, whereas Sam has, like, a mission. He wants to save the world, help Jon Snow. He wants to make everybody proud. But his true mission is, I need to find these answers for Jon and for the realm. Whereas Qyburn was like, I'm going to cut people up because I want to know stuff. You know, I think they have different purpose or motivations, different motivations.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point.
All right, I'm going to go over here. We're going to go back to Dragonstone for a meeting of the minds. Definitely an interesting scene. I felt like this scene was very powerful. We had a lot of very powerful women in the room having a great conversation, and we got to see some of the battle strategy as well. Speaking of which, what did you think of the scene with Lady Olenna and Yara? And do you think that Yara was right, Yardley? Because I'm beginning to think that. Well, I mean, after watching the episode, obviously, I think they should have struck hard.
Both of us are great backseat drivers, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Olenna and Yara had the best short-term strategy of striking immediately with overwhelming force to get the throne. I think they were just like, let's go ahead and do it. Catch everybody off guard. Don't give them time to plan and, XYZ. Let's just go in and get it, and we'll worry about the ramifications later. So if she really wanted to be on the throne, I think if she would have bum rushed, I think that she could have done it. Now, there would have been a lot of fallout, but if that was the main goal, the short-term strategy would have worked. And I think what we'll find out later is that, by separating those forces out and doing all of that other stuff, it ended up not being the advantage that they might necessarily have wanted.
Not ruling over the ashes, Andrea, do you think that was wise, that Tyrion is actually very good at helping Andrea, or helping Andrea?
He is good at helping me.
To help Dany?
I think that a lot of his plan had had good points in it. Disabling Cersei and taking away. Well, first and foremost, her first scene, Daenerys goes, 3 dragons, not so many. So that means she only rules 3 areas, 3 realms in the 7 kingdoms. So I think taking away the areas that she thinks she has control over does isolate her. So Tyrion had a good point in that. Unfortunately, what happened is that was the dangly, shiny thing that he put in front of the other lords that they had support of, and they were like, okay, perfect plan. Even though sailing to Dorne to grab the Dornish army, and then sailing them back to King's Landing didn't really make any sense. It's not really a long march from Sunspear or from any of the keeps in Dorne to King's Landing. About as much of a march as it is from Highgarden, honestly. I mean, slightly more. I don't understand why she thought that, sailing them back into King's Landing, especially with the wildfire situation from the Battle of Blackwater that Tyrion himself commanded. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. So I read an article. Peter Dinklage said that Tyrion is completely smitten with Daenerys. And anytime that you're not thinking clearly, you make strategic mistakes. And this is the beginning of the dance between the major players that I'm starting to see. So I think Tyrion did make a pretty strategic mistake in the situation.
Okay, I could see that to a point. I think we talked about this in the last episode, John. You had mentioned about the Dothraki being left behind. I actually went back and wrote that down as one of my notes, that Tyrion's plan was to leave the Dothraki behind and to use the Unsullied in Castle Rock, while using the Westerosi forces to basically siege or, hold against King's Landing.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move not to use the Dothraki. He's again. Tyrion is 5 steps ahead of Cersei. Look what Cersei says. The Dothraki's coming, the Unsullied's coming. So he's like, I'm not going to use a foreign army. I'm going to use the 2 other armies I have to do this. So I think that was a strategic play on Tyrion. I don't know why everyone sees it's a bad idea to send the Unsullied to take Castle Rock. I think it's a genius move. One, you have an army now stationed at Castle Rock, so if you need to call them there, they're quicker to get to King's Landing if you need them in the future. And it's also going to be like a morale kind of thing to take Castle Rock. How many of those Lannister soldiers will be now like, is going to be hurt by that? I mean, that's their home being taken. It's also going to send a message to the rest of the lords that are somewhat loyal to Cersei, saying, we just took your land. How are you the queen if you just let your ancestral home get taken? So I think, and it's also going to provoke, and I think Tyrion's doing this to provoke Cersei, because Cersei will go crazy and she's going to launch her army, which is a big mistake. If you know you have the Dothraki army, your best bet is to stay and keep your army in King's Landing. And I think by doing this, it's going to force her to send the army out to get back that home. And I think, and we've seen in the future episodes, there's going to be a battle. So I think that's also, but I do agree it is kind of a mistake to do that. Why don't you just have your armies march from Dorne and the Reach? But I don't see it. I think it was a kind of a strategic move to kind of siege King's Landing rather than attack, because you want to, cut them off from their food, and you're trying to not kill civilians.
Okay, Andrea.
I just want to piggyback off that, John.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that anyone's suggesting that taking Casterly Rock is a stupid move. That's not at all what I was suggesting by any means. I think that the idea of sailing to Dorne and then sailing back to King's Landing, rather than having both armies march by land, is a stupid move. Other than that, I think that taking Casterly Rock and blocking her off from her ancestral home weakens her position exponentially. I think that what it's going to do is distract Cersei from the bigger goal in this situation. So it puts them in a fucked up place. They have no place to camp, and he's going to have to call back all of his army. And Tyrion was right in that regard. I don't think that anyone's suggesting that taking Casterly Rock is a bad move. I just think that why would you sail the Dornish army back to King's Landing knowing that there's wildfire in the city, possibly, and the Blackwater was easily orchestrated? So, I mean, learn from your past mistakes.
Can I say something?
Okay, go ahead, John.
Really quick. I agree with you about the mistake of sailing the army when you could just march. I'm wondering, too, if Tyrion taking Cassidy Rock is also a play to get, I know you mentioned this before, again, Bravos to side with Daenerys. You know, having Cassidy Rock is a big prize, and that could kind of get the Bravos and the Iron Bank to support Daenerys.
All right, excellent points. Let's see. I actually had a Laria. I used to love her as a character. Okay?
No.
But now
No,
I'm not so
hate
sure.
her. Oh,
I figured you would
can't
agree with me,
stand
Trin.
her. Yeah, I know. I absolutely hate Ilaria, especially in this scene. Like, the Sand Snakes have had this horrible freaking plot line, arc, whatever you want to call it, for the entire show. For the whole show. Nobody's like them. And if you do, send me hate mail at Dovahkiin Trin, because guess what? I think they're terrible. And she was just so terrible. Oh, all Lannisters are terrible. She was basically saying, yeah, I killed the little girl, and I'm not even crazy about it. And yeah, I'm really pissed off that my boyfriend died for you, even though it was his choice. Like, she was just out of her mind. I can't stand her. And everybody in that room had an ulterior motive. Even Lady Olenna says to Daenerys, peace never lasts. Well, nobody there, well, as far as the women were concerned, were there because they wanted to see the betterment of the realm. Everybody was for revenge or because they wanted some sort of power. It wasn't because they were like, oh, this is the best for the people, except for Daenerys. She was like the one true one that was literally there for the people. So I just was not impressed by the women in this scene. Not at all.
What are the comments coming in? What are the people saying about this scene?
Eric Flores says Dany and company should have landed in Dorne first for strategic reason. From there, you can send the Unsullied to Casterly Rock, and with Yara's ships, she can bring the Dornish army to siege King's Landing, while Dany sails to Dragonstone. Let's see. Jeff says he knew exactly what Cersei was thinking. His plan was smart, and he used the pincer move that the show has brought up multiple times. Good point. And Peter says, I get Tyrion's logic. If there was a ruler that came before that shares your last name who screwed it up, it could be hard to get support. Just look at Jeb Bush's presidential run. Those are the comments for this one.
I want to move to Grey Worm and Missandei, one of my favorite scenes. Although it probably wasn't very necessary, but Missandei, oh boy, why did you waste yourself on that? It's like, anyway, I'm just gonna go and let Yardley talk about how you think Grey Worm is gonna die.
Hey, sweet and straight to the point. That scene was Grey Worm's swan song, and he's gonna die at Casterly Rock.
Andre, what do you think?
Agreed.
Disagree.
I actually wrote something about this, which I thought was really interesting, and it's going to go into my analysis. But I thought that the reason why they gave us that scene, and I know a lot of people think that it's a wasted scene, was to show us that real people are being affected by the game. Missandei and Grey Worm have no reason to really be in Westeros other than the fact that they believe in Daenerys. Grey Worm told Missandei that she was his weakness, and then he kissed her, and then she pulled back, and you could see that he was, very insecure about it. He thought that she was rejecting him. So then she pulled back, and she started taking her clothes off and whatnot. And I think that Missandei realized in this moment that his fear isn't Missandei. His fear is being exposed and not being enough to her. Goodness, that beeping. Is not enough. That's his real fear. So when she started to undress him and he was really hesitant to let her move forward, she had to explain to him, she had to, express to him that she wanted to see him, that he didn't have anything. He didn't really have anything to be worried about when it came to her. And then he finally stepped back after, everything. And she smiled at him like, you're beautiful. It doesn't matter, what you have or what you don't have. That has no bearing on how I feel for you. And I still think that Missandei got the best end of the deal out of this, although she's absolutely stunning with or without clothing on. But it was meant to humanize people in a situation that all you're expecting is like conflict. And the only way that Grey Worm could have faced his fears, his real fears, which were being exposed, was for them to go through this situation and live it out. With that being said, I do think Grey Worm's going to die.
Yeah, I think so too. Not long for this world. John, what do you think, John?
Missandei is hot. Missandei is hot. I love this scene. I don't think he's going to die, to be honest. Call me optimistic. I don't see him dying.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Trim, what are your thoughts about this scene?
I thought there was a lot of plot holes, I guess. I don't know. If they were going to take these two people and take them as far as they did with their character arcs, they should have been real to them. And Missandei is a translator of how many languages? 14 different languages.
19.
And 19 different languages. And she's really, really horrible at getting the hint that when he said it's hard to say goodbye, and she's like, what do you mean? What does that mean? And she kept kind of going back and forth. What do you mean? He was saying, I love you. And he had to further translate and say, once upon a time, I had no fear of dying. Now I have something to live for, which I agree with Yardley, which means he's now going to die. So when you have something to live for, you're going to die on the show. And did anybody notice the door is open and we're looking through the door at one of the scenes, and this poor boy is absolutely terrified of being exposed, but the door is open on top of all that. I just wanted to point that out.
Anybody could just walk by and have a glance at the Ken doll.
Exactly. Ugh. Come on, man.
I think somebody has notifications still turning on. I don't think you can hear it. You won't be able to hear it in the podcast, but I think we can hear it during from the live stream. Okay, so that leads us back to the Sam and Maester Ebron, where I kind of jumped ahead a little bit earlier, and I believe Yardley.
One sec. Can I just read these funny comments?
Oh, yes. Get to the comments. I went right over the comments.
Oh. Christina said it was foreshadowing of Grey Worm dying. Eric, Grey Worm got a feast worth a king. And Jeff also says that was Grey Worm's last meal. He's about to get 86th. It's Peter says it's obvious a setup that Grey Worm dies. I'm going with Missandei dies. Oh, that would be a twist too. And then Eric says Grey Worm is dead. And Steve says, even though she's a translator, he is the one speaking in tongues. You guys, our fans, you guys are funny.
We had a fan on the other page say, her name is Joanna Dixon, by the way, shout out to her. And I thought that Missandei was the cunning linguist. And I go, I see what you just did there. Cunnilingus. I thought that was awesome.
Sam and Ebron, this is the scene I kind of mixed with the other Sam scene. I'm still getting used to this new format, trying to work through it and keep everyone led. I know, Yardley, you already mentioned about Jorah going through a lot of physical pain as his penance, but was there anything else that you wanted to mention about this particular scene?
Just for the most part, I think, when he gets through this ordeal, it'll be exciting for him to have actually kept the promise when Danny told him to go get a cure. So I definitely look forward to seeing that, man. It'll make me smile.
Nice. Andrea, any final thoughts about this scene before we go on to Jonathan Stamos?
Are we just talking about Ebros and all that, or whatever his name is?
Yeah.
I noticed that one of the books that he handed Sam was all the histories of the House of Lannister.
Yes, awesome.
And they wouldn't give us that close up unless it was important. Something important was in that book. And I don't know if that goes back to his great, whatever it was that went to Valyria with Bright Roar, or it's something about, secret tunnels or whatever. I feel like if it's secret tunnels, then it may actually be too late for that, because I think that's happening next episode no matter what. And I don't know when Jorah's going to get there. But definitely interested in finding out what's inside that book about the histories of the Lannisters, for sure. It's important. It's got to be.
I just hope that Maester Pylos, who died of grayscale, by the way, I hope that his book helps Sam to heal Jorah. I kind of want to see Jorah endure, believe it or not. John, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I hope Jorah gets healed. Daenerys needs more allies, and more advisors, and I think I agree with Andrea that Lannister book is going to be very important. Why else would they show it?
Yeah, excellent point. Any thoughts on this trend before we go to the live comments?
Yeah, sorry, I lost my spot. This was interesting because I really lost my Sam actually said to Archmaester Ebron that he suggested a more poetic title, and it kind of refers back to a theory I think Andrea had, and I've heard a lot of people have the same theory, that Sam might be the person who this is all written through his perspective, and a very poetic title and fitting would be A Song of Ice and Fire. So it really solidified it for me that Sam is the writer of this, because he would pick that poetic title, and this was kind of that thing. Also, when they're doing the whole Jorah scene and they give him the rum, why would he pick rum of all things? He's like, oh, I'm going to take a swig of the rum, and then you're going to take a swig of the rum, or you need to drink all of this. Sam's in the Citadel. Don't they have milk of the poppy or essence of nightshade or some of those things that he could do to help him out?
Good point.
I mean, you've got all this stuff at your disposal. Come on, Sam. You could have. You snuck into this guy's cell, and you have all of these ingredients. You could have whipped up a little something better than rum for him.
Just forgot that part.
Yeah. I agree. Where's the lidocaine? Where's the morphine at? Where's all those things that could just take away all your pain? I was wondering. I was like, don't they have fucking something out there that could freaking numb a person? And I didn't even think about milk of the poppy. That
essence of nightshade. I looked that up, and it's like for anxiety, which, would have calmed his nerves or something. Been like a muscle relaxer, maybe, just to chill him out a little bit.
Hit him over the back of the head with a shovel.
Yeah. I mean, because he does a fantastic job in this scene with, you really see that Jorah's paying for it. And I think Yardley talked about that at some point, didn't he?
Yardley? One thing that I have to say is that a muscle relaxer doesn't do a damn thing about nerves. I just got over a back injury, and I had muscle relaxers. However, I had a lot of inflammation that was pressing against my sciatic nerves, and muscle relaxers didn't do anything. I was just as destroyed. But that was all I had to say.
Any comments, Trent?
The DJ said, isn't that the book G.R.R. Martin is writing, the Lannister book, the one that he just announced? And I think Andrea will talk about that after the show.
I actually don't know the answer to that, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure if you're talking about the book that he announced that may be coming out in 2018, but I'm pretty sure that that's a book that is about Targaryens. I think that the histories of the wars following the death of King Robert isn't the same book that Sam is going to write. I think that the book Sam's going to write is The Song of Ice and Fire, which is going to be Jon Central from Sam's point of view, because this is a war that's completely separate of the wars following the death of King Robert.
Okay, let's go to Arya and Hot Pie.
And that transition, you know what's really funny? I just want to make mention really quick that we're seeing Hot Pie for the first time, and this whole transition is like disgusting into pie. Just had to say that.
It's absolutely
God,
disgusting.
it just looked like pus coming out of that crust.
Absolutely
Oh, yeah.
nasty.
So gross.
Was it nice to see Hot Pie, Yardley, other than the fact that he looked like he really blew up like a balloon?
Yeah, absolutely. It was some cool fan service, and they use it as a reason for Arya to find out about Winterfell being reclaimed. But it's hard for me to believe that Arya would never have heard about the Boltons being defeated over the course of a few weeks.
Excellent point.
Andre, your thoughts on this scene?
Lots of thoughts, actually. Arya is really, really reserved in regards to Hot Pie. And I think that after watching it 17, 19 times now, that Arya is cutting herself off from any sort of connection to people as a general rule because of all of the pain that she's gone through. I don't think that it was just fan service. I think that it served a point because at the very end, she said to Hot Pie, "Don't die." And he goes, "I won't, Ari. I'm a survivor like you." And then she walks out of the inn to get her horse, and you hear the people that are going to King's Landing go, 200 miles to King's Landing. And it didn't occur to me the first 18 times I watched it, but sure enough, that last moment, 200 miles. Why would they say 200 miles from the inn at the crossroads to King's Landing? Unless that's a radius boundary. So something from King's Landing is going to do a lot of destruction within 200 miles of whatever. So hopefully Hot Pie gets his ass out of there because I predict an explosion.
Oh, yikes. You know what? With Hot Pie, I wish that the meeting would have been more friendly. Like, oh my God, hey, Hot Pie. It just shows you how much Arya has changed. And I didn't know if anyone else noticed this or not, but she wipes her face a lot. Like, she takes a bite, wipes her face, takes a drink, wipes her face, wipes her face, wipes her face. I wonder if it's her character having a nervous twitch, not knowing how to respond to a friend that she hasn't seen in a long time now that she's a master assassin. Thoughts, John?
I love this scene. She's more hearted now. I think that's what it is. She's an assassin now. She's a little bit more hearted now. She's not the same girl she was when she first met Hot Pie. And then when she found out about Jon, it kind of brought a tear to my eye because she's going home. I kind of got emotional there. I'm like, yes, go home.
Oh, John, did you pick up on the Jon Snow came down with the wildlings from the wall and beat Ramsay in the Battle of Bastards, and he's king in the north now. I was like, did he really just go, Jon Snow came down with the wildlings and beat Ramsay Bolton in the Battle of Bastards? Like, what the fuck?
That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't have a joygasm over that, John.
I mean, I loved it. Like I said, I love the scene. I was like, yes, Arya now knows she's going home. This is awesome. Awesome. I loved it.
So Trin, friends don't let friends pay, right?
Yeah, no, that was adorable. And, it was actually, I like the fact that they brought Hot Pie in because we didn't know that they were going to bring Hot Pie in. We saw like a preview picture a few months ago that Arya looked like she was in sort of like an inn or a tavern or something. And she may have been eating a pie of some kind. But this was a great throwback because Hot Pie says when he was, I think I mentioned this on Sunday night, he was talking about the big knight lady or lady knight or whatever. And he says, I figured she was a knight because she had armor on. And that was like a whole scene that they did when they were having this argument back in like season 1 or 2 where they were talking about like, all knights have armor. And they're like, no, stupid. Anybody can buy armor. And it was just a really cute throwback. And we know that Gendry's coming back, Drake. We know that he's coming back this season. So I just think it's cute that Arya's meeting up all of her old friends again, and she's getting back together. And this was just one of those things, he's like, oh, we're survivors, like John said. Oh, by the way, do they have horse ballets at the inn at the crossroads? Because I'm pretty sure that she just walked out of there and somebody had her horse ready.
Yeah, she was just like, bam, I'm ready to go.
I was like, horse ballet. This is my ticket.
I like that. Go collect my horse
Yes.
right now.
Horse.
I'm ready to go.
Yes.
So, what kind of comments do we have? We got to have some comments on this one. People gotta love hot pie.
Oh, yeah. No, Eric Flores says Hot Pie, or the actor who plays Hot Pie, opened a bakery in the UK. Oh my God, you guys! If anybody's in the UK, you have to go to that bakery
That's
and tell
cool.
us how it is. That's gonna be
And
great.
take pictures. Put them on the Facebook page.
Yeah,
Facebook.com// Behind the Iron Throne.
He makes he makes direwolf bread in his bakery, legit in real life. I think
awesome.
it's adorable.
That's
and he
amazing.
actually looks so much different because in real life he has like a full out beard, and in the show he has like this baby face with his bottom roll or his like triple chin, and you think he still looks exactly like the little boy that he was when Arya left him at the end of the crossroads. But seeing him in real life, it was just like, wow, that's Hot Pie. Holy shit.
Eric also says Arya and Hot Pie reunion is the reunion that we needed. I totally agree. Christina said the transition was gross. And I don't know if anybody else picked up on this, but as soon as they got into the pie part of it and the guy scooped it into his mouth like a string was hanging down his beard, it was really
It's
gross.
like a pubic hair looking thing. It was terrible.
Yeah. Ugh. Peter says 200-mile explosion. Is Sam going to learn how to split atoms and create nukes? Which is
That's
really funny.
cool.
That's true. Like 200 miles is a lot more than
Sam
people think.
is the secret weapon. You got to understand this.
That's it for this part of it.
Awesome.
Renee says, I'm really curious how Arya and Sansa reunite.
That'll
DJ,
be interesting
You know
to
nothing,
see.
John Doe.
Nice.
Oh, that's cute.
All right, so let's go way north where Arya seems to be heading now. We have the council where Jon is explaining that he got 2 ravens. Not just one, but he got 2 different ravens. That's right, we got 2. And of course, Yardley, what's going on with Sansa? Why does she constantly have to keep undermining this guy?
You know what? I don't know. Obviously, they've got bad communication skills leading into any type of a meeting. But the situation was pacified a little bit. You know, Sansa has the North. And, of course, we all know Littlefinger would probably benefit a lot if Jon was to, die when he leaves. But I think Littlefinger will still have trouble dealing with Sansa if something was to happen to Jon. But this is one of the scenes that I think that I enjoyed the most. But even when Jon gave Sansa Winterfell, the look on her face was she was kind of happy, but it didn't look like she was ecstatic about it. It looked like she was surprised, but it seems like she wants more. So it'll be interesting to see where her character goes from here.
Excellent points. Andre, your thoughts on this particular scene?
So many thoughts. Again, I was like you, Yardley. I was like, why does she keep undermining him? And then after watching it, I finally started to pick up on Sansa's nonverbal clues. First of all, she was extremely nervous. And the reason why she keeps fighting Jon about leaving isn't because she wants to undermine him in front of the lords. And I don't even think that it's a play for Littlefinger anymore. She's legitimately worried. As Jon was speaking, she kept glancing at Littlefinger like, Jon, look. You know what I mean? She just kept looking over to, the side of the room that Littlefinger was on. And then the minute that he said that he was going to leave her in control of the North, she glanced at Littlefinger again because she knew that something was stirring in his head. I think that she feels like as long as Jon is there, Jon will keep her safe or will make sure that Littlefinger doesn't have access to her. She didn't realize that he was going to trust her as much as he trusts her. But then when he said, I leave the North to you, it was just like, oh, shit, what do I say to that, But you could clearly see that she was nervous about the idea of Jon not being there with her because whenever she hasn't been with her family, shit just gets fucked up. You know what I mean? So calling back Rickard right there in that scene, and then the Rickard conversation or the Rickard comment with Jaime in King's Landing, there was a lot of different callbacks, and I think that we're going to see somebody be burned alive either by Dragonfire or Wildfire at this point based on those double comments. I think that Jon had the right idea. He needs to go to Dragonstone. It doesn't matter what the Lords of the Vale have to say. And I love that he let them know, too. you guys elected me as your king. I never wanted it, but you chose me, and the North is my home. And then he said, and I will never stop fighting for it, no matter the odds. And there's foreshadowing again. You're going to be fighting their wars for 1,000 years. Jon Snow always comes back, and I will never stop fighting it, even against the odds, even no matter what the odds are. Jon's just going to keep coming back. Just going to keep coming back. I don't think that we've seen the last of Jon and his laying in a cold frickin' in like a cold state where he's dead again. I just don't think that's going to happen. And it just keeps getting pointed out over and over and over again. Davos, then you try and you fail again, you get up and you fail some more, So I really, really liked this exchange. And I also like the fact that you can see when Lyanna speaks to him, how fond he is of her. And I think that she reminds him of Arya, which is also really comforting to me, knowing that she's now going home.
John, with the mountain of dragon glass that we now know, thank you, Sam, for that raven. You must know it's a smart move for Jon to go back, or to go to Dragonstone and to treat with Dany.
I think it's a smart move. He needs the dragon glass. He needs the dragons. He should align himself with Daenerys. They have a common enemy, which is the Lannisters. The Lannisters murdered Jon's father, Jon's brother. I mean, it makes perfect sense for him. I love this.
Trin, there must always be a Stark in Winterfell, am I right?
Yes. And that's beautiful that he basically says that to her. And you're the only Stark in Winterfell. So we all know if he's got to leave, she's got to be there. And she's the best equipped person to take care of the North. Everybody knows it. No one's going to deny that. And I think Jon is looking at this from a tactical aspect specifically. I'm going to have to disagree with Yardley a little bit on this. He didn't really give her any warning as far as like a private argument. I think we mentioned this on Sunday night that like they just had a conversation about not disagreeing in front of the court in private, and they were going to talk in private. And then they had the opportunity to talk in private earlier, and then he gets a raven from Sam, and he doesn't talk to her in private. Even like a quick little 5-minute, hey, I got this raven from Sam. There's all this dragon glass, and we're going to go, I'm going to go now. I changed my mind. Then she'd at least be like a little bit mentally prepared, but he didn't give her that courtesy. So of course she's going to stand up to him in front of the court. It's to be expected.
I think there was a reason why he didn't go to Sansa and tell Sansa what was going to happen. It was all very on the fly. He needed to let his lords know, but also I think
it just made Sansa look really bad, and I don't think that she needs to look that bad because I love Sansa.
This is the very first interaction between Jon and Sansa since the season started. Not that we've had a lot of interaction between Jon and Sansa because it's only the second episode. This was the one time that I felt like Sansa didn't look bad in this situation. I started to understand her a little bit more, and I think that the reason why Jon chose to wait to explain that to Sansa was because he meant to tell Sansa in that moment in front of the lords of everyone in the North that he chose to make Sansa his regent, while he was gone, and then he gave her the North and that they're to obey her. And I think that Sansa, I think it was important that Sansa looked equally as shocked as, the rest of the lords. Like, finally, he's actually showing that we do stand in unity. This was the one scene that I actually didn't feel like Sansa was in the wrong or looked like she was in the wrong.
Yeah, good points. Any live comments, Trin?
Eric says Jon gathered the lords as soon as he got the message from Sam. He should have counseled with Sansa and Davos first. And then John Surbeck says, handled it better. Tyrion and Dany aligned before they met with their court. Jon and Sansa aren't on the same page, which is pretty true, I guess. And that's it for this specific scene.
Okay, we're going to have to go into a lightning round because it's getting very late in the show, and I do have to get up very early and go to work tomorrow. Sorry about that. So we're going to go into a lightning round. We're going to go to the next scene. We're going to go through each person on the panel here and quickly get to your chat. So try to keep it brief on these next couple, and maybe we'll have a little bit more time for the final thoughts and the rating. Let's go to the Crypts of Winterfell. Is that where we are? Where Jon and Littlefinger are talking?
Yes.
Yardley, what were your thoughts?
You know what? The only thing that I have to say about this is everybody just jacked up Littlefinger has ended up dead. And thinking of that, you notice that Ned Stark's statue is in frame in a lot of those scenes.
Yes, I noticed.
Yeah, good
Me
point.
too.
Andrea.
I think that Littlefinger was goading John the whole entire time, and John's reaction was exactly the way that Littlefinger wanted it to play out. I think that he was working to point out the similarities between Sansa and Kat to prove, or to at least cause doubt in John, which he could use to his benefit later on. I think that he's going to go to John and he's going to tell John that, not to John, he's going to go to Sansa and he's going to tell Sansa that John threatened him, choked him out, and told him to take himself and the Knights of the Vale home because he doesn't want any conflict between the Lannisters and the Targaryens, who he chose to side with. And he's going to tell Sansa the only way that he'll stay is if she gives him a reason to. So this was exactly what Littlefinger wanted to happen. And I don't think John's going to be the one to kill Littlefinger for that matter. But I do think that he signed a death warrant.
Okay. John.
Yeah, Peter is provoking John. I think Peter is going to overreach, and Peter is dying this season. I think he's going to overreach. He's going to make a big mistake, and he's going to die this season.
Okay.
I love Ned Stark's statue.
Nice, John.
Brought a tear to my eye.
Trin.
Yes. When he says, give Lord Tyrion my best, he's clearly creating wedges. I want to know what he wanted Tyrion. What exactly was he expecting Tyrion to say to John regarding Littlefinger of all people? So that was clearly him trying to create wedges. He's doing it again with when he suggests Catelyn or brings up Catelyn, and Tyrion's last cards are his manipulation, and I think he's going to use it to create wedges in relationships. And we need to watch that specifically, those wedges in relationships. And I think at the very, very end of the scene, Sansa really, really hated seeing John leave because, Chris, you said it earlier. She's, I don't know. They really like each other, and he's like her protector, sort of. She feels confident or comfortable when he's around.
Any comments from our good old live chat? That's right. Hashtag. Oh, real quick, while you're looking at that, you can always join us live at facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne and check out everything we do very simply at the website BehindTheIronThrone.com.
John Surbeck says, so Sansa is staying behind in Winterfell with Littlefinger. Lord Bag says, headless Ned, love it. Oh, come on now, guys.
Gold star.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that it?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, Arya and Nymeria. I was a little bit sad to see them reunite and then separate, but then it made sense. They both had to go their own ways. So let's go with Yardley first.
All right. We're talking to Arya and Nymeria, correct?
Yes, indeed.
Hey, just to wrap it up very quickly, man, take her advice and go home.
Nice. Andrea.
It really reminded me of Arya and Nymeria's scene right before they left Winterfell, where she's like, Nymeria, gloves. And Nymeria was like, fuck you. And she was like, Nymeria, gloves. And she was like, no. And John was like, impressive. Nymeria is a lot like Arya. She doesn't listen to people right away. She does what she wants to, and she will come around in her own time. And this is exactly what's happening with Arya now. So I think that Nymeria walking away from her, especially the same way that they departed on the King's Road, it took a lot of convincing to get Nymeria to do it. I think that Nymeria didn't leave Arya. She's just walking away from her for right now, and she'll come back when it's time. You know what I mean? Because Nymeria just does what Nymeria wants to do. And for Arya, that's not you. It's Arya still reconsidered because now she's going home. And I think that eventually Nymeria will too. So they brought her in. They're going to bring her back. This wasn't just a one-shot deal just to say, hey, we kept her alive and here she is, but bye. I have some great pictures of Nymeria standing next to those other wolves that I'm going to show you guys on the page. And she's fucking huge. So I'm really excited about that scene for sure. And I think that it's going to all work out. Nymeria will be back, but only when it's needed.
Awesome. John, your thoughts?
I love seeing my Nymeria, but I also agree with Yardley. Take Nymeria's advice.
Okay, fair enough. Trin.
I don't think Nymeria is coming back. I think this was a fan service and only fan service. This was reinforcing that Arya is going back to her pack, not to be a lady Stark, but to be an assassin Stark. And the wolves are like the Stark children's daemons. They represent their souls and their personalities. And Nymeria's wild, and she's with her own pack, and she's kind of the leader of her own pack. So maybe Arya goes back and becomes some sort of leader in some situation within the Stark children. But I don't think we're going to see Nymeria again. I think this was just a closure on that for fan service.
Okay. Comments in the chat?
Yeah, it says, Tom says, do any of the living Starks know how Littlefinger's the one that held the knife to Ned's throat back in the first season? Then John says Tom the Hound knows. And Joette says Nymeria and the pack are coming back. John says, I would love to see Nymeria again, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. CG wolves aren't cheap, or CG dire wolves aren't cheap. True. That's very true.
Yeah, and we got a lot of CG to go. If we're going to see what I think we're going to see in terms of what's coming up in the show.
Right.
Okay, so so now we're at the battle at sea. Holy crap, I loved it. Jack Sparrow is a bitch compared to Euron Greyjoy. He is absolutely nutty. He's crazy, and I like him as a villain. Yardley, how did you feel about this? And I can't help to wonder what's going to happen with Dorne now.
Yeah, I really like the way that this scene was executed. It kind of showed us that extreme side of Euron, but I believe that this scene has pretty much erased Dorne as a player to help Dany. I think the players in the game are getting smaller. Dorne doesn't have any leadership, and I don't think that there's enough time with 11 episodes left to explore a storyline of a new leader coming up in support of Dany from Dorne. So I think that it's pretty much a wrap for that, and they're moving on.
Andrea.
I don't think that Dorne forgets. I think that if Aegon couldn't conquer Dorne with 3 dragons, then Dorne is still a major player no matter what. And they have introduced the other houses here in the show. They had Pod name them all off to Tyrion while they were waiting for Oberyn to come to King's Landing. I don't think that Dorne is pulled out of the situation. I think if anything, they're going to rally because again, the Lannisters are fucking up another Dornish house. But I don't think that Cersei's going to be able to take control over Dorne either. So I'm not really worried about the Dorne plot as of right now. I will say for the battle at sea, that every single scene in this entire battle was foreshadowed. The foreign invasion of Yara and Ilaria, the fact that Theon felt helpless in that moment, like he couldn't protect her until they make their intentions known. That's when he will back off, basically. Or he'll stop protecting me until they make their intentions known. Euron made his intentions known when he called Theon a cockless coward. I think that the Sand Snakes, Tyene saying that I might kill you both before we get to King's Landing, and then boom, Obar and Nym end up dead. There was just a ton of foreshadowing, everything that was going to happen in here. Go protect your mother to Tyene, and then Tyene and Illyria end up getting captured. It was just like one call back to the next, and then you see Theon actually lose it. I have to say to you, I find his PTSD heartbreaking. The only thing that I found funny about this whole entire scene was the way they had Theon jump off the ship. It wasn't that like he just went and took a running jump. It was just like a bombs away kind of situation. That was hilarious to me. And I also got a Grim Reaper feel about Euron when he was coming off of his ship and he had that axe in his hand. It literally looked like almost like the Grim Reaper, and the Grim Reaper is death. And so what do you say to death? Not today. And I feel like that means that there may be a stranger situation happening between Euron and somebody who's no one. So I'm really holding out for that. But yeah, overall, it was really gratifying seeing that like that fireball like sail underneath Yara's arm while her and Euron were fighting. I'm a little sad that she didn't jump off the prow of that ship and just stab him right then and there, because she landed right on top of him. But again, that's the plot for you. But overall, I would say that I'm pretty impressed with this battle at sea for sure.
Yeah, John.
I love this battle. Euron's smart to get taxed at night. You can't see ships at night, so it was a smart play on him. It's a kind of a shallow victory in my mind, because it's going to force Dany to use the Dothraki and the dragons, which is something she didn't want to use. So it's a kind of a shallow victory for Cersei, because of the Dothraki now Dany's pissed. So now you're not unleashed the Dothraki. So, but it was a great battle. Euron's crazy. I'm sorry, Euron's a badass.
I will definitely agree with that. I enjoyed watching two of the Sand Snakes die. The way they shot this was gorgeous. The lighting, the lightning in the background, the fog, the mist, this giant flagship with that giant drawbridge thing dropping down, and there's Euron, first guy off the ship with his big axe. Trin, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was really interesting to see how ferocious Greyjoy versus Greyjoy is, because when you think about who these two people, or not two people, but these two forces are who are battling each other, it's the Greyjoys versus the Greyjoys, and they're really just tearing it up, and they give no fucks, and they're killing their own kin, which is, kind of a Euron thing, like thinning it out. It's too crowded, I guess. And how did Nim's hair grow so fast, but Cersei's hasn't? I just want to know that.
Beyond the realms of space and time.
Come on now. Yeah, she had like super long hair when she had cute little short bottom last time, but Cersei's hasn't. So
Tyene, by the way.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Nim was the youngest one, but so of course she's not going to die, because I know that her death is going to be a revenge that Cersei has against Ellaria. And that's why, conveniently, two Sansa died that were not the daughters of Ellaria. And they made that very known at the beginning of the scene when they said, "Mama, mama, mama." Well, that wasn't their mama. Yeah. It was just the little one's mama. And that kind of solidified, oh, no, this one's living, because she's going to be the thing that Cersei uses to torture Ellaria, for sure.
Yardley, you got a follow-up?
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty cool that Euron was cutting out the tongues of the people of that ship, and his ship is called the Silence, and they generally man those ships with the people whose tongues that they cut out. So I thought that was cool, and ironically, that was the thing that set Theon off to jumping overboard. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing that they stuck in there.
That's awesome. I really wanted to see the foreign invasion. You know what I mean? Trent, if you had a thought.
Me too.
They did build that up. I wanted to note, if anybody goes back and watch this, there's those few cuts back and forth where they're showing Yara in the clutches of Euron, and then they switch the screen back over to Theon, and then they switch it back to Yara. And you can see very clearly that the moment that Yara knows she's lost Theon, there's a tear literally that comes out of her eye, and I thought, oh my gosh, like she recognizes that she just lost her baby brother again, and there's nothing that either one of them could do about it, because honestly, that was a logical move for Theon. Even if he knows he can't save her. I was talking to my husband about this before this show, and he's like, yeah, well, that was probably the best thing to do for both of them. And I was like, but that's not honorable. That's not what Jon Snow would do. And he's like, no, it's not. But Jon would have died. And I was like, that's a good point. It's a really good point.
Yardley, how do you feel about the Sand Snakes being dead? And I also want to know what the chat room thinks. I'm kind of happy that two out of three are gone.
Absolutely. I'm happy, but in a way, I'm kind of indifferent, because I thought that I would be happier, but there's something about kind of seeing one hanging and one speared, and you're like, oh man, well, it was a nice run, but I'll miss you like I miss a rock in my shoe.
Right, from their own weapons.
Yeah, right. Anyone else is anyone gonna miss the Sand Snakes? Anyone at all?
I will.
No, he just wants the bad pussy.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the bad pussy. I knew the one with the whip, I can't remember her name, would die because she's in Marvel now. So the Marvel Universe has her. So I knew that was going to happen.
Okay, fair enough. What do we got in the chat room?
All right, we've got John Starbuck says Euron will deliver Ilaria to Cersei, and he just eliminated 50% of the army about to attack King's Landing, so King's Landing won't get sacked. DJ says Cersei's going to pull the Rickard Brandon trick with Ilaria and her daughter. Oh, are you talking about DJ? Are you talking about the one where they burn one and choke the other one or whatever? I think you guys are tracking on what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Where he like ties a rope around the one and burns the father. That would be interesting because they would see each other die, or I don't know, something like that. Gisela, hi Gisela.
Yay!
He says I don't think so, Christina. Talking about Cersei's gonna kill the little girl in front of Ilaria, and Gisela says I don't think so, Christina. Bronn will want her, but who knows? Maybe Daenerys will pull that with Randall and Dick and Tarly. John says plus the actress that plays Tyene is on another show, also reaffirming what John just said, and she ain't sticking around for long. DJ, good question. I still don't understand, or I don't get why Euron took Yara alive. That is a what do we call that? That's still a thread that's lingering out there.
Andrea?
I think that there was a lot of emphasis in season 2 on the definition of a salt wife and a rock wife. And he did say, let's kill my niece and my nephew. But Yara is a Greyjoy, and she's true born. And I mean, the Ironborn don't actually really marry outside of Ironborn. So he could keep Yara along for a salt wife situation, and then see Cersei as his rock wife, which is slightly less impactful. So that's an option. But also we saw a lot of the Victarion and Euron Greyjoy being blended again, like Jorah and John Connington. So it's possible that he may need her for some sacrifice later on because he brings the storm, and he definitely brought the storm this episode. So there could be some sort of like sacrifice later on that he plans on using Yara for. Who knows? But it'll play out. I'm almost positive of that.
Okay. We already gave our sword ratings in our previous episode. If you guys just wanted to go around real quick and just say what you did. I did 4. Trin, what did you do?
I did 4 as well.
John, do you remember what you rated the episode before?
5.
And you're all so far sticking with that?
I'm sticking with 5.
Andrea?
Yes.
Honestly, I liked 1 better than I liked 2, but I also got a lot out of this episode. So I'm going to stick with 4 for right now, based on Renee's suggestion. And I saw a lot of different things in there, so I have to add a half point based on what Renee suggested. So I'm still staying with 4. I think we got a lot in this episode for sure.
Yardley?
I'm sticking with 4 as well.
Okay, excellent. And anyone in the comments, if you want to give us your sword rating, throw them in the chat. And before we end the show, we'll see if we can read a few of them real quickly.
Christina says she gives it 4.
Oh, nice. I think we're going to see a regular theme here. Real quick, I just want a very brief, any predictions for the next episode before we wrap it up? We'll start with Yardley.
I have one. Just looking at the Next On trailer, I want to just focus in on a comment by Tyrion. He says Cersei will be ready. She knows we're coming, which we already knew from the previous episodes. I think that the sacking of Casterly Rock will be a strategic loss meant to make the bigger overall force commit some of its forces away from reinforcing other areas that Cersei and Jaime would think are a higher strategic value. I also think that the sacking of Casterly Rock will be successful for Dany, but at a cost, and that cost will be Grey Worm. And my Hail Mary, I think that Drogon gets wounded and killed trying to defend Highgarden for the season's first truly unexpected death.
Oh, nice. Andrea?
I don't think that we're going to get the Highgarden scene next episode. I do believe that we have a distraction going on here. For sure, I think that Casterly Rock is getting attacked. I do think that Dany's going to win Casterly Rock. I think that with this battle at sea, you kind of have Cersei having a step forward, and then she thinks that, that's going to help. So then Jaime eventually will decide to march. And then with Casterly Rock gone, she's distracted. And they need the grain from Highgarden. I think that at this point, with them moving over to Casterly Rock and Cersei being distracted, that this is the moment that Tyrion and or Davos, who just arrived on Dragonstone, talk about Gendry. And I think with Gendry possibly being in King's Landing, that's the reason why we still have a Baratheon stag on King's Landing, because whether he is a true-born son of Robert Baratheon or not, he's the only living child of Robert Baratheon, which means that he's eligible to be king. And if he ends up on Dragonstone, that's a very strategic gain for Daenerys. So I think we're getting Gendry in this season. I think that Jaime learning from his mistakes is going to be something along the line of when he let Tyrion out the last time, he didn't see him all the way to his exit point. Tyrion turned around and murdered his father. I think that this is the mistake that Jaime's going to learn from. And if he decides not to kill Tyrion, if he sees Tyrion in this episode, he's going to escort him back to his plan of exit, and he's going to see him out of King's Landing. So, yeah, I definitely think that we may get a Tyrion Jaime conversation here, and I think that Gendry goes back to Dragonstone, and I think that Daenerys meets Jon on the beach with dragons, and we'll see what happens from there.
John?
I don't think taking Cassie Rock will be a strategic loss. I think it's a smart move. Again, having an army stationed there is not a bad thing. I can't wait to see Jon and Dany meet. I'm wondering if we're going to have Tyrion propose marriage either to Dany privately or to Jon privately. So that could be something to play. And also Varys being in the same room with Jon, knowing what Varys knows what Peter did to Ned, maybe that could happen. But yeah, I think next week's going to be a really good episode.
Awesome. Trin?
We already know Dany and Jon are going to meet, and that's kind of confirmed by the previews for next episode. I think that unlike their past relationships, Dany with Drogon and Jon with Ygritte, those took some development. I think that Dany and Jon are going to be immediately smitten with each other, right off the bat. And the fact that we didn't get Bran at all in episode 2 makes me think that he was traveling the whole time. So we're probably going to see Bran show up at Winterfell in episode 3 because he took all of episode 2 to travel. So those are my 2 main predictions for next episode.
Awesome sauce. Are there any final comments that you'd like to read before I do all the goodbye speeches and where to find us and whatnots?
John Serbeck says, I like Renee's scoring system. For those people who are listening and don't know what we're talking about, one of our friends, Renee, posted a scoring system. If you guys want to check that out, for your own personal scoring or whatnot, on how to rate episodes based on the content. And then he said he gives it a 3.5. Lord Bag says, I give it a General Grievous. Get it? He had 4 swords.
Nice. Gold star, sir. Love it.
Very nice. So, that's all the comments. Thank you guys for participating.
Excellent. John, thank you so much for being on the show. Please tell everybody where they can find your crazy shenanigans.
I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I don't know my Twitter handle, so just type in my name. It should pop up. And if you want to send me any comments, I'll be happy to send it to me, man. Especially you, Anthony, and Stephen Baggs.
Nice. All right. Yardley, thank you so much for being on the show, my friend, and being a part of everything we do. Could you please tell everyone where they can find you, good sir?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at militant_marker.
Awesome. Andrea, thanks for being on the show and all the great work you're doing in the community, keeping it real and keeping the conversation flowing. It is a phenomenal job. Where can everybody find you?
Well, I'm right here on Facebook. And again, you can find me on Twitter, _Richards with an S, 637 at Twitter. And mostly it's right here. And as far as the community goes, this is probably my most favorite thing to do is be there interacting with you guys. So message me anytime you want to. Again, I'm going to be in the chat for a while. I'm trying to write up my stuff. If you want me to go live and talk about some of your questions that hadn't been addressed, or if you have any book and show questions, let me know and we will go live. So it was great to be here. I will see you guys Sunday, and I will be in the group page all night long.
Fantastic. And Trin, where can everybody find you?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Dovahkiin Trin. So if you know what Dovahkiin is, it's Grim for Dragonborn, and Trin is just TRIN. There's no underscore or anything, just Dovahkiin Trin. I also want to mention that we only had 24 shares tonight, so we did not meet the goal. I will not be doing any shots.
Very unfortunate. We're not going to be doing an extended after show as well. I have to shut everything down, get everything up and out of here and up and loaded. But in the meantime, I want to thank everyone for joining us live. You're a great community, the BTIT Club. Join us at Club BTIT on Facebook. You can also check out everything we do by going to the website, behindtheironthrone.com. Right there on the main page is a link for everything that is pretty much important to what we do here as a community. There's even a place where you can tap. This is Patreon, so you can support us monetarily so we can keep getting better equipment, better sound, and hopefully someday we could pay for all of us to go to one of the conventions together and do a show from the convention. How cool would that be? I want to thank everybody for your continued support throughout the community. We love you guys so much, and all the people downloading. Remember, you can find out everything we do at behindtheironthrone.com. We love you guys. We'll see you on Sunday after Season 7, Episode 3 is over. We do that live show at facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne. We'll see you next time for another great adventure of Behind the Iron Throne. Woo!